We welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to our press conference today. Actually, some of the journalists have promised to come, but they haven't yet come. But since time is of essence, we also want to go and do your own other things. You can still proceed with who are here, and then you can continue with all your other business. The chairman is going to read our press statement for you. Mr. Chairman, over to you.
Thank you very much. We welcome you, the media fraternity. Today is a very important day in which we just wanted to share what we have with the public. We want to share with the Zimbabweans mainly about the state of the party, MDC, and the way it is going and the challenges that we are facing. So our press statement has got a theme: Chamisa turns MDC into a ZANU-PF G40 faction against the Lacoste team, as presented by DMTL, defending constitutionalism in Zimbabwe. Fellow Zimbabweans, it is our pleasure to once again appear before you to share publicly the issues at stake with regard to our motive towards driving a constitutional agenda in Zimbabwe. Since the inception of DMTL, we have managed to cut across all divides, drawing attention of the public on matters that involve democracy and constitutionalism in the MDC party and the violation of the constitutional provision thereof. It is important at this juncture to mention that we have received a widespread support locally and internationally in our bid to educate the citizens on the need to respect the will of the people and to adhere to constitutionalism in the MDC party in particular and to the whole nation in general. We have therefore rebranded the DMTL in order to have a more appealing national outlook to defending constitutionalism in Zimbabwe, DCZ. The DCZ has a broader scope of mandate and will concentrate on a national scale. This has been necessitated by huge demand for such and the need to provide checks and balances so that Zimbabweans work together on a perfect wavelength in an inclusive, transparent, progressive and constitutional manner. For the avoidance of any doubt, DMTL is just an awareness campaign and voluntary pressure group, which is independent and fights for restoration of social justice, democracy and constitutionalism in MDC party. Among other issues, the following are major concerns which have undermined MDC as a party of excellence and hope for all Zimbabweans for an alternative government. 1. Suspended constitution. MDC Alliance has since abandoned the use of the constitution and operates in a vacuum. If ever the new constitution exists, then it was not debated upon and was born out of imposition. No one can disband the constitution of a party established by various stakeholders. 2. Party capture. MDC Alliance has been hijacked by ZANU-PF G40 members. An example is when the MDC National Council tried to pass a resolution to join Poland last year, and the idea was shot down by Kudakwashi Baskiti, who proclaimed that never should MDC attempt to join hands with the government of Emerson Mnangagwa. It means that Chamisa uses G40 members to fight against ZANU-PF factional wars. No one stood up to challenge the decision by Baskiti. As Chamisa rubber-stamped it without any objection from the floor. In another scenario, upon the death of the former president, Robert Gabriel Mugabe, similar decisions were announced by Chamisa that Mugabe was MDC, and all funeral proceedings were supposed to be done by MDC Alliance. Chamisa consults G40 members for any decisions related to the MDC Alliance. Such important issues must be consulted on the grassroots party members, and this is not the norm. 3. Finance and resource capture. Chamisa is being funded by G40 members, particularly Jonathan Moy and Patrick Joao, as evidenced by their recent admission on the Twitter social platform. A total of 6,000 was available to MDC by G40 for the purpose of campaigning and publicity. There could be more funds donated but not yet exposed. On another occasion, Chamisa received huge sums of money from Grace Mugabe for various purposes. However, Chamisa and Kabal have never been open to the party members or the public on the source of the finances to administer the party. We also take note that Kudakwa Chitagure bailed MDC Alliance with a V8 Toyota 200 series facelift, which is one of the latest expensive car models. 4. Misuse of party funds. MDC Alliance received Zimbabwean $2 million from the Parliamentary Finance Act for the purpose of party programs and development. But the money was siphoned to Namibia by his Namibian counterpart without any accountability or trace. Chamisa has also raised money from various sources and membership contributions to challenge the harmonized elections, but the exercise was never attempted and the money unaccounted for. 5. Frustration and resignation from the party. In a short period of time, after Jonathan Moyo confessed his influence in the party, much to the disappointment of party members, 2 senior party members, Grace Quinje and Tracy Mtini, resigned from the party. Considering the Jonathan Moyo crafted the draconian law such as IPA and POSA, which undermined and restricted the opposition participation, it is not in the public interest for Chamisa to join hands with him. It is ironical that some leadership continue to support Chamisa in his spree to destroy MDC, and such members do so purely for their personal gains instead of promoting the interests of the party. 6. Party destabilization. Chamisa disbanded the whole Mashingo provincial executive recently with an intention to rein in his G40 cabals. He is busy disbanding all the structures which elevated him to the position of the president with a hidden agenda to destroy MDC. To effect this, Chamisa works with a factional team of new recruits who always wield axes with a full mandate to expel or disband any structures or perceived enemies. All party members who do not subscribe to Chamisa as president have been discarded and laid off from their positions in various provinces. Equally too, all members who were loyal to the late Morgan Tsvangirai have not been spared off. 7. By-election losses. Due to disgruntlement by MDC party members coupled with the leadership crisis and poor party governance, MDC Alliance is losing almost all by-elections in local authorities. Such is a sign of party decay and deterioration in standards and performance. There is overwhelming evidence that 2 years after Chamisa grabbed power unconstitutionally, he has made the party worse off than it was. He has shown no leadership skills to deliver the democratic people's agenda. It is extremely pitiful and regrettable that MDC, a party of excellence, garners 27 votes in a typical rural ward in Menes, when one local branch structure has over 42 members. And by the way, we have got 8 branches in a ward. And each ward in MDC is 27, each branch is 42 members. If any of them exist. We therefore continue to reiterate that Chamisa has no support on the grassroots, and the claim that he won the 2080 presidential elections is but an element of stubbornness and wishful thinking in order to make headlines only so as to remain relevant in politics. The party has no grassroots structures in most wards, and where they exist, they are dysfunctional or disempowered. The notable trend and journey for Nelson Chamisa is to destroy MDC completely and later hang on his boots to concentrate on his pastoral duties or otherwise, as he has already hinted. 8. Gross interference in local government institutions. Several municipalities fail to function properly due to interference by Chamisa and Kaba in some cases. They impose mayors and councillors. A case example is Victoria Falls and Masvingo Urban, where the attempt to impose the mayors was resisted. Avoid working on factional lines, regional, tribal, and ethnic background. 7. A national convergence is necessary to chart the destiny of the party so as to save it from extinction.